So I think I'm going to slow things down a little bit, at least. I've got 20 minutes to burn here, and I probably don't have 20 minutes of material. I was telling Lee I feel a little bit like a fish out of water with some of these topics, in that what I bring is more of a message from a user experience perspective and a little less industry-specific look at things. But perhaps that's something important today. First of all, a rule of thumb in what I have to say. Change is inevitable, and it's an important idea to us, in that that's the business we're in. We're either an enabler, a catalyst, or at times a provocateur, this basic idea and with industries. And the two important parts of this idea are change in what largely I hear everyone talking about today is in terms of making things better. But there's another kind of change which is different. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And the way to frame that story up a little bit is to first talk about maybe the life of a product, or it. This is the singularity I'm referring to, and this mental model that is so critical in a product's success and the lifespan of a product. So if we start in the beginning of a product's life, there's some sort of inspiration. Something gets it going. It comes from nothing and becomes something. We're not sure what it is. What is it? I'm going to dwell on this word it, because I think that's a critical idea in the minds of consumers. A new model emerges when we have that. We may not know quite what it is at that point. The author of that may give it a name, but the public doesn't know quite what to think about it. And over time, it becomes it, a way that a single word might express the common understanding of what this thing is in an industry. Even then, it may undergo some evolution. It may change course. It may actually bifurcate. It may become multiple things. And even better, it may come in collision with another market with its own perception of what it is. What's interesting about that is quite often, more often than not, this product in many of these industries, and I'm going to come around to this industry, is still beholden to that original mental model, that original it, the way the world thinks of it. And it ends up being a box. It ends up being a limiting conceptual boundary for what it is. And so change becomes beholden to this singularity, almost like the astrophysical phenomena. It's sucking in every attempt to escape out of that reality. Give you an example. Just try and be a little more concrete here. The car. Don't take me to task for the genealogy here. I took some exceptions. But the automobile, it starts with a basic model, hundreds of years ago, more than that. Even through all of the innovation, that what we call innovation in the automobile, it still is basically, even with the number of iterations, and this is just one manufacturer, the number of iterations that we've created, still basically the same thing. The way we buy it, the way we use it, the value proposition, the way people understand this product is still the same thing. Right. So that leads me to this industry. Maybe a sublime statement here. We, unfortunately, are trying to apply that kind of thinking to a model like this. So I want to introduce this idea and where this might be going. We have the telephone. And I'm going to focus on the handset itself. I know a lot of folks have been talking about the services behind it, but I want to talk about what the user gets and the way they focus their attention on what it is. And that is often through the device that they hold in their hands, the physical and functional expressive reality, not all of the business behind that. That telephone, while simple in its initial incarnation, is actually beholden to a lot of functions. We've sort of plugged in all these different things, and all of a sudden it is now challenged by a lot of different players, a lot of different mental models. Those things are born out of other realities, other sources for what these, the mental model, you might say the interface, the market approach, the technical realities, the boundaries, just the thinking that defines these products. And all of a sudden, the phone is incredibly challenged. And those things all come from different corners of the world, you might say. And again, you could look at this 6 ways to 100, but this is hopefully gets the basic idea across. In the end, with this happening, the phone ceases to be a phone. It ceases to be the it that it was originally born with. Why is that? What we're facing here is software is allowing for the product's ever-shifting identity. That original product, that thing that we hold, becomes almost a non-object to this dynamic reality that sits within that. It's almost just like a hole in the world, a portal that allows something dynamic to come through. It can essentially be anything you want it to be. And that, in the way we normally think about products, is really challenging. We want to design something with this sort of singular identity. Everybody says this is what it's supposed to be. And what happens when it becomes anything you want it to be? So we move from a literal, from a design perspective, from a product creation challenge, something where the form and function, the story is easy to tell. It's literal. You can almost look at something as an alien from another planet and over some exercise grok what it was supposed to be doing for that culture, for those people. To a more abstract relationship between form and function. The physical object, of course, loses its functional identity. What it is instead, as I said, a portal. But the physical object doesn't become meaningless. It takes on new roles. Here, it's fashion, it's self-identity. Like what people have been talking about with portals, this physical object becomes another part of my outfit, my dress. But it's not what it was, in that it was, at one point, an expressive way of identifying what it does. At this point, it is not. It is instead something that's just part of my outfit. What it does is a dynamic reality beneath that. So what are the drivers of this change? Technology, easily. Democratization of these tools. These type of platforms allow folks like us in a direct idea relationship, and folks like you, to move more quickly from idea to execution, where the concept itself is that much closer to the execution. And therefore, the opportunity to make a radical change, to escape that sort of that singularity, is much easier. I mean, the ecosystem is driving that. In other words, a product doesn't exist in isolation anymore. And we've had a lot of discussions about this today. This is, I think, one of the most fascinating things, and as a design consultancy, one of the most difficult aspects. There's less and less opportunity to create that sort of singular statement that's almost that mixture of political, emotional, fashion statement in this one gesture. Frog's been around since 1969, and we were very practiced at that. But the new reality in making products is a much more systemic challenge. Form and input. I think for whatever reason, there's been a culmination of these radical ideas that for many years just floated around in PowerPoints in the back rooms of large companies and small, were tossed around inside of design firms, but they never went anywhere. But one or two products managed to escape, and that leads to the next 2 points is competitive landscape. Just at the time that was hitting critical mass, you have some players getting weaker and some new players entering the market, namely this one. This is a shot of the opening sales day in New York for the iPhone. And when customers demonstrate a willingness to accept these new models, in the industry dogpiles, and you have this opportunity to truly move from the current model, the current singularity, to something new. And that is the opportunity in front of us. It's changing. It's becoming something else. this industry has an opportunity to seize that moment, to define something new. Thank you.